then they can get themselves the Rakan and Xayah, just like they did in Game 1.
Similarly, I wonder whether Edwards says, the Rakan was fine, we played the early game phase incredibly well, I can play against this? Or whether it just becomes a ban, as we've seen so much through the play-ins of this tournament. It is so hard to ensure that you play each stage of the game correctly against Rakan, and if you make one mistake, it just flips on its head.
Well, so far no Kai'Sa at least, as Flash Wolves do ban it and Anivia for their first two, where we've got Skarner, Morgana, and Camille as the next ban.
Interesting. So remember in Game 1, Gambit put a lot of priority onto banning away the junglers. We see the Skarner ban come out again, but this time Sejuani has been left up and available for Moojin. Gangplank is the other big one that I see available right now. And with the Rakan ban, you have to imagine Gambit put early focus on that champion.
Stejos has played already this tournament. He's looked good, but lane bully Braum is #1 priority for Gambit.
And potentially this means that Gambit are valuing the Ornn pick incredibly high. We saw the fact that it was banned away last game. Both of these teams do like to have some form of solid engage coming out. I think it's more than fair to say. And with the Braum Ornn combo, not really all that many counters to it.
The other big thing here is that something we said at the beginning of the cast was Flash Wolves love Ezreal Braum. And it was Flash Wolves that banned the Ezreal in Game 1, and it's something that Gambit have played a lot themselves. So they're more than happy to pick that one up, is what I imagine. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them actually forego the Gangplank and instead get themselves an early jungler, maybe even the Kha'Zix or the Nocturne themselves as an answer.
Have a chance to pick it, of course, with Trundle and Varus actually being the picks. Diamond counterpicks Graves, as Ezreal does go over to Lodik.
And this is a pick we saw yesterday, played to huge success from Moojin. Obviously, there was another attempted counter pick of the Trundle demonstrated yesterday in the Kindred. I certainly wasn't as much of a fan as that as what the Graves was able to do. And this is a pick that potentially could still be, I don't want to reach for it, but Maple's historically played Gangplank to an incredibly high level.
That is true.
Certainly something we see much more in the top lane nowadays.
I'm expecting it to go in the top, and as you identified, the Ornn is what I'm expecting to be a high priority for Gambit. Wouldn't be surprised if Flash Wolves look to ban it away. I don't think they'd be that worried about banning something like a Maokai away.
I think all of a sudden Gambit do need to attack SwordArt's champion pool, because if you got Gangplank top lane, if you got Trundle in the jungle, potentially have Varus to start up these fights, but you really want something like an Alistar flying into that back line.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's where the priority does swap.
Well, Vladimir ban actually for Flash Wolves, so far on their side, hitting Kira with one ban away, but it's actually a Rise again. Maple's Rise once again will receive a ban, maybe just too strong, and obviously with Maple having counterpick, it can be a bit tough.
He's a terrific Rise player. It also splits the map up into a 1-3-1. As soon as Sterix comes through for Gangplank, at the moment he loses not many matchups with the Grasp of the Undying build. If you then add a Rise to that team composition, they can collapse very quickly through the ultimates and would be able to control some of this rift.
Interesting. So initially I thought the Vlad ban may have even been directed towards topside, because against the Vladimir it could be difficult for the Gangplank, and they'll both scale up relatively well, and then the Vlad obviously has strong late game value, but with the Cassio ban on top, it could also be directed towards Kira, so they're just trying to pinch that pool. Perhaps they're looking at something a little bit more creative in the middle lane, but you already talked about it, Spawn. The Alistar engage from the side of Flash Wolves, it looks like that is where they're heading towards right now.
SwordArt's a monster Alistar player.
Yes, he is.
Historically, it's been his best champion. Obviously picking up Rakan, which is kind of like good Alistar nowadays, but goes back to the old faithful Mookow. And a pick that is just so fun to watch it.
As you called out, Spawn, not really attacking SwordArt's champion pool at all, so given free reign, we'll take the Alistar here on this side. With Karma Band, there is a little less for Maple to counterpick from, but Gambit still lining up these two picks, and Maple will likely get counterpick.
And we saw the Karthus ban coming out from the Flash Wolves in Game 1. I'd be a little surprised if they went for the Karthus again, something like an Ornn. And thinking about some of the other mid laners that are available, Azir is one of the ones that kind of springs to mind.
Well, there's the one we expected. It was not banned either. Two mid laners instead for the Flash Wolves. So I think this comp very much falling into place as we expected from Gambit. But what does Kira pick blind here? That's the lane he now has to address.
I would love the Azir pick, because it pretty much guarantees topside shove, and that does the opposite of that. I was going to say, with a Graves, if you get topside shove, he can just repetitively run into the jungle and will be able to challenge Moojin in that one-on-one fashion. Diamond does need to step up in this series. However, going towards a blind pick Kassadin?
Line pick Kassadin. That is fascinating. Now, okay, question. Do you put the Gangplank mid and then you put a Swain top into the Ornn?
That would be juicy.
Because Gangplank has typically been known to be a really good pick into the Kassadin as well.
I mean, Klepto would be able to farm up fine. I think the thing that Kira is looking towards here is that the game was slow. And they have so much scaling on their side. Varus becomes a turret. Gangplank is going to, you know, just become this time bomb. You got Alistar farms so well, scales so well into the latter stages of the game. If you get Kassadin, you just sit in a lane and the laning phase goes for another 17 minutes. He gets the 3 items. He is in the exact same territory.
I don't really see the role of Kassadin in this composition because you've got a lot of, like, you have early priority with Graves, and one of the big things that he values is not only can he farm well, but he trades well against the enemy jungler, so it's easy to move into the enemy jungle and then start applying pressure. But
that's why I like the Azir pick. You're arguing with me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that I don't really understand why they've thrown Kassadin into the mix. We'll see how things pan out. They've definitely gone for more of a scaling option on the side of Gambit. You do have decent mid to late game damage, especially in the mid game once like Graves and Ezreal secure their first item. So we'll see how things work out for Gambit, but that mid lane is definitely going to be a point to attack for the side of Flash Wars.
For Kira, the easy answer is comfort, right? He's shown a lot of different champions this tournament. He's shown a lot of different proficiency. I think at this point he's like, I think we can play this well. He identifies something he can see. I agree there are some inherent problems with the way this draft works out. But if he wins with it, it will somewhat all be forgiven. So we'll see what Gambit have in store for the second game.
Victor certainly gets to write history. In saying that, I am going to be incredibly interested to see how Kira allows himself to be pushed in.
Yeah.
Because that is the, I mean, style that Kassadin has always played towards. You know, gracefully get pushed in, farm up to the level 9 mark, and then begin to be able to start clearing out those waves. If he falls down, I mean, Maple will be able to roam all over the map. And Swain, whilst hasn't seen all that much success at MSI so far, certainly has continued to see a lot of play.
Certainly a strong one as the teams fan out across Summoner's Rift. Again, we asked for a bit more proactivity from these junglers, and they'll switch roles in some ways here. Diamond on the more aggressive jungler this time versus Moojin's Trundle as Edward's lining something up.
I like this from Eddie. So many times, Klepto top laners will get greedy for a cheeky run up and just queue someone, hope they get the red pot level 1. Eddie just sits himself in the Baron pit. And Braum's level 1 is unrivaled. However, they know he's there.
Seems that way. No vision that we can see, but maybe he was spotted moving in. Maple and Moojin playing pretty safe. Hanabi also doing the same in the top lane, Tribush.
Now, more minions have spawned. Edward is guaranteed to be late, which implies to me that they're looking for a 3-man invade onto this red buff, but a ward goes down. Flash Walls are prepared for any potential early shenanigans. And look, Braum is actually coming up from behind, so there's Flash Wolves believe that there's only 2 people coming up, and surprise, it's actually 3.
The next level late invade here, perhaps as Moojin waiting. Diamond, I think, is just trying to soak them out. Yep, Stejos puts the ward down and finds him. Edward's still unseen, I believe. Now they're going to collapse. SwordArt coming up, though. It's 3v3. Edward, though, maybe has to dip away. They will have to move off the red buff, and SwordArt maybe thinks about pulling the trigger. Diamondprox, they're pulling the buff around. Kira, level 1, is also roaming up. As Gambit, again, just trying to force Flash Wolves out of this jungle.
Flash Wolves have abandoned. I think this is the correct play. They've already spent so much time here. Moojin's going to be completely fine just taking a blue buff. And they do get a big experience lead on Hanabi in the top lane.
Curious start, certainly, but Diamondprox will get the red buff in the end. Looks like he's going over to the Raptors.
Actually, only 1 creep died in that time? That can't be right.
Apparently so.
Edward gets some love from Maple as he moves into the mid lane. I think also split XP with his mid laner.
Oh, Edward.
Maple's currently 2. Edward now going to face check. SwordArt has read the next level of the play. Maple coming up. He's got the ear. Great pulver. The Flash is going to pull him back in. And First Blood goes beautifully over to the mid laner.
And Flash Walls punish the return of Edward. He caused them a lot of early game problems, and now he pays back with 400 gold.
That's just such a smart play from SwordArt. Knowing exactly how he wants to walk down. He's been out of the laning phase for so long. This also increases the pressure on Lodik down in that bottom lane because he has to back away knowing there's 2 members of the Flash Wolves behind him.
But also I would argue that when you've seen Graves take your top side of the jungle and then you have an idea that he's probably just clearing through top side, you would imagine that Moojin would look to try and steal away the red buff. You would imagine that the expectation is he's going to try and trade half of the map. And the fact that Edward decided to be a little greedy with his pathing, I think you're right. SwordArt in a good position to punish that kind of selfish pathway towards the bot lane.
Well, Moojin back to his old tricks here, invading, getting vision, although we have split the jungle after level 1. Is spotted by pretty nice control ward here by Gambit, but not really much they can do about the double buff Trundle. Edward going to make something happen, but only 2 taps in the concussive blows.
And I love when junglers do this. You're crashing a big wave. The only thing that can really stop it is if the jungler races down there and is looking to apply a gank. Moojin just in terrific position, you know, would press the attack this stage of the game. If he does get face checked by someone like the Graves, would win the 1v1.
And, you know, we talked a lot about Moojin, who right now, with his presence in the mid lane, will force a flash out from Kira. We've also got to talk a little bit about Diamondprox, because
pulls back with a passive. Such creativity from the Flatrals, and Maple makes it 2.
And such silly play coming out of multiple members of Gambit. He tries to aggressively walk back towards the mid lane. He had no business being there after burning flash. We said you have to gracefully lose the early game as a Kassadin. Well, going down like that is not the way you do it.
Exactly that. So early flash burnt from Kira. Now the important thing to recognize is that any form of CC can be dragged in by Maple. The knockup comes out from the pillar, which allows him to bring him closer to both Moojin and the Swain, and they secure themselves another early kill. 2-0 now for the Swain.
Certainly looking good there as Maple trying to take over this lane. We talked already about Kassadin's early woes. Moojin's going to make them even worse. Another route lands, the slow is there. The pillar coming in again. Kira's just dead once more. This time it's Moojin that gets the gold.
Just camp the Kassadin. When his flash is down and he's not level 6, he has no escapes. And when you're going up against a pillar and the setup from Maple's E, it is so easy to just return over and over and over again. He used his TP to get back into lane. He doesn't have that available anymore. Maple is building a huge advantage in the 1v1.
And whilst I'm not normally a fan of Graves just walking into my lane and, you know, queuing the wave down, Kira needed someone to help him reset that lane earlier. Diamondprox not there for his mid laner, was farming up for himself, and Kira now down 1,000 gold at only 5 minutes into this game.
And kind of inheriting the Kassadin Maple synergy of old Moojin, a very young player, but certainly someone that's been making his impact known, pairing up with Maple to just try and destroy this Kassadin.
So I was curious what build Kira was going to go towards, as Diamond might actually be caught out here a little bit.
So his flash gets out from under the root, pillar pull back in. It's just gross as Maple gonna keep making it happen. Diamond maybe force a flash in. Moojin with a slow is gonna force it.
And the thing is, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the level 4 Kassadin to rotate to save you? I don't think that's going to work. What I was saying is, Tyr versus Abyssal Mask, what kind of build are we going to see? This looks to be a super scaling late game build. Potentially Tyr into Rod of Ages, get yourself that 20% haste, but then you're delaying necessary items nowadays, like the Lich Bane, like the Zhonya's Hourglass. You're going to have to eventually have a Void Staff in there as well. Kira really putting himself behind the clock with this build, it feels.
I wonder if he goes to the full scaling build and then gets a Catalyst on top of the tier as well, and then you also have the potential double tier coming out from Lodik. Then you go for like the full late game of when, oh, well, we need 3 items, maybe 4, before we can really fight. And for Flash Wars, they have a comp that kind of has strengths at every point in the game. You have a good mid game with like the Gangplank and the Varus. You have decent early game with the Trundle damage along with the Varus once he hits the Rage Blade. And then Swain, well, he's just a late game menace with the amount of teamfight damage he can throw out.
You also just have a lot more inherent power in your kit, you know, through the additional CC that Maple's going to be able to rip back on.
Yep.
All the free stats, you know, he gets, and it's just one of those times where if you're not able to punish an early game of a Gangplank, if you're not able to punish an early game of a Varus, at 1.5, 2 items, these carries become online and they do not fall off.
Well, Maple is still bullying Kira here, but it is a good time to check in on kind of where everything else is at. We know Maple and Moojin have gotten work done there in the mid lane, but everything else is just A-okay. Yes, there are some CS leads here for Gambit in their other lanes, but that kind of doesn't matter right now. It's gonna have to be a lot more than that to make anything else happen, as Diamond is threatening down towards the bot side right now. Gonna go over a control ward pretty soon, though.
The arch nemesis of Graves. You'd rather hit a champion 4 times because you might do all their health. Control ward's going to be there. This is... Once again, the Flatrals cheating down and protecting their bottom lane. I wanted to mention the fact that Moojin has once again gone towards the Tiamat. This is something that we see heavily in the LPL region. especially going up against a Graves where he's going to farm and try and outpace you. I feel like Tiamat is certainly the smarter item to go for here.
I think it gives you a lot more wave clear in terms of early trading. Having that extra bit of AD is always valuable, but your focus is on just getting through your camps as quickly as possible because the single target damage that the Trundle had, unfortunately, does not allow you to keep up with the Graves. But to be fair, he's not that far behind. He's still keeping up in levels thanks to the huge impact that he's had in the middle lane. And now Flash Wolves are sitting on a pretty healthy gold lead. And for Diamond, we haven't really seen much from him. And one of the big things we wanted to see was a shift from his game 1 to game 2, where you can have a little bit more of an impact, and so far on the Graves, he hasn't really been able to do that.
And we're seeing again a jungle get given second blue buff. Moojin just walks into his own blue, says, hey, do you want this one? No, it's on me. Okay. Gonna be farming up a storm now.
Maple says he's fine right now, but maybe not so much with Diamond. They're gonna throw down the smoke screen. Maple, though, just walks away. Catalyst has enough health, and again, Flash Wolves just control the map and start the Infernal Drake.
He has the ulti, so I think Gambit were a little afraid of that. They just wanted to clear out mid so that Kira could go back to base, spend some of his gold. I think they've now just recognized that the Infernal Drake has been taken, and even with the arrival of Pstejos, they won't be able to secure very much off the back of it.
30 seconds too late there. Could have potentially been a team fight because no TP available for Hanabi. Only the ultimate would have been dropped, and the Ornn ulti at this stage of the game is just so much more impactful. However, Fire Drake picked up, and this is a 1,600 gold lead. Diamond's had, once again, next to no impact apart from farming. This game looks like it's going long, but it looks like the Flash Wolves are the ones eking out advantages.
And for Diamond, like, it was fascinating because coming into MSI, expectations were that Diamond would actually be that kind of low-impact jungler. He didn't really gank a lot during the regular season. He didn't really have, he didn't play towards his lanes very much, but in play-ins, that kind of completely shifted. Look, you can see his team jungle proximity was pretty good. Overall, his early action, early kills were extremely high, and he was involved with a lot of the early playmaking that Gambit found themselves in. But coming into this series, sure, you could argue on the Trundle, against the Kha'Zix, you don't really have that much early gank pressure. And the same on the Graves, like, you don't have a huge amount of ability to gank, but we're not really seeing him show up anywhere. He's not hanging around his team at all. We're not seeing many counter ganks. He's just arriving a little too late, where Flash Wolves have already done the damage.
And we're not seeing comps built around him like we were in that play-in stage of this tournament. You know, the craftiness has seemed to, you know, fizzle a little bit out from Gambit. And that was my main criticism, is do you have 8 of these compositions? Because if you don't, you're in some trouble.
Another fight breaking out, though. Diamond found Moojin. Here's the Ornn ult. Moojin gonna have to find a flash angle. Does do so into the Krug pit.
Isn't it just a fun ultimate to watch, the Ornn ult? He's not anywhere. He's not even on my screen. Oh my god, he's slowed me. He's gonna knock me up. He's diving my Gangplank somehow.
Early game Ornn has a lot of damage, and he's just going to continue to breathe on you. And now Moojin with no flash. He does have the ulti, so that diving power a little weaker.
Well, they're going to try something here, I think, but Battle Cattle's already here with the Mobies. Now the tables have turned. Diamondprox, he knows too late that Moojin is just going to pick him up.
The chaining of CC was actually super impressive there. Headbutts him into the wall, pillar comes out, pole. Diamond thought that with ulti, with flash, he'd be able to get out of there, but that was not the case.
I mean, what impressed me is the fact that SwordArt just seems to constantly have an impact in every game that he's in. This guy roaming all the way from base towards the top side of the map, using the early Moby boots to try and shut down any kind of early playmaking that Diamond is trying to make, enables Flash Wolves to get their 4th kill of the game and extend another early game gold lead.
Well, you can see, again, we talk about Diamond struggles, but credit to the strength of his opponent, as again, Moojin is trying to make things hard. Edward now going to have to flash the route out from Maple. The Vision of Vampire, though, is going to grab the soul. He puts up the Unbreakable SwordArt here again, trying to find the pole, but can't quite connect it after the headbutt.
Yeah, good guy, Lodik. Gives his support a way out of that. You can just see that Flash Wolves every single time are looking to punish any form of aggression. And this is really a change in meta that I didn't expect to see.
Early rush towards the top side of the map. I mean, the thing about Gangplank is, so when Stopwatch came about, one of the reasons why Gangplank was so strong was you couldn't dive him anymore.
Yeah,
it meant that he could get the Kleptomancy meant that he could get Trinity Force really early, and it was really difficult to dive him. But once that was nerfed, you could argue that, oh, it actually becomes easier to dive a Gangplank, but many teams actually don't play towards the Gangplank because, oh, we have tanks top lane and we kind of have an off-tank jungler, so it's really hard still to dive in. Instead, what they do is they just pick Ornn, you push all day, and because of Bellow's Breath, you not only clear the wave, but you also win all the trades because you have a shield and do damage. And then they bring the Graves top, and they're like, well, you can just last hit this turret for me, can you? Like, yeah, it's great. So now they secure themselves the top tower, and you can't really do what you do with the bot lane and just, like, swap them. But what you can do is push out top and then have Stage just roam around the map and use his ulti to try and force fight.
Yeah, and Ornn is one of the best champions if you can have topside pixel brush control of just throwing an ultimate at a mid laner and having so much impact. As meanwhile, bottom lane.
Behind the bot side, looks like Ornn's making his way down there, but already the 2v2 has exploded. Edward looking for the stun, but can't quite grab it. Moojin hit first. TP in for the flash rolls. Edward gonna get messed up in the pillar. He'll go down. It's Moojin that gets yet another kill. Predicting the shift there as Lodik does finally get away after the vision slow. But the flash rolls, they're down here first now, looking to get their own objective.
That'll just be the Ornn horn sounded to clear out the wave. Such a versatile champion. Again, don't know if there's much more of a play to make here.
Bellow's Breath gets it all down. Moojin, oh, actually taking the turret up. Lodik might fancy himself a kill with the Varus ult. He's going to move in. Lodik going to try and get the kill on the other side, but Stejos, he's going to be the trade. Lodik now in a 1v2, forced to flash away.
You can see the Mad Cow just sprinting down towards the bottom lane as well. Lodik wanted absolutely nothing to do with that. They do get their first kill of the game, but right now, Gambit are just going strangely aggressive.
Yeah, it feels like that they're just trying to force plays when they don't have the vision to properly do it, and flat rolls are punishing them. Fortunately for Gambit, Diamond had just taken the Rift out and they were able to trade it for mid. Stejos doing his best to mitigate the pressure down in bot, enabling them to finally get their first kill on the board, but it is flash walls that are reading the map better and are shutting Gambit down in this early game.
You can see that I thought the play was just going to be to clear the wave because of exactly what you were talking about. Multiple members had to head back mid, but they continue to go for the play, and because they had held ultimates, it's not a very tanky Stejos. He does break down the pillar with his head, so that's just a one-for-one trade. Sure, the shutdown is actually quite nice.
He's like, I will not be slowed, and then he breaks it, and then he's like, oh, I have to flash anyway, and then I still end up dying. But it looked like to him that I think he just did more damage than he was expecting because the tower ended up hitting the Trundle as well, and then he thought that he could keep going for the chase, and unfortunately, yes, it cost him his life, but Lodik got himself a kill.
Well, it may not be pretty, but Gambit know after the last game, they do need to be a bit more proactive. So making it work in some ways here as the gold is a lot slimmer than you may expect from a 6-1 game. First two turrets helping out a lot.
But it's an artificial gold lead because they've taken two turrets, they've forced in on play, and bottom lane looks like it's about to go down, and complete control of the bottom side of the map is now there. They also don't have the best wave clear to park mid lane once this turret does fall down because it's an Ezreal AD carry, not something like an Ashe or a Caitlyn that we would have historically seen. And, I mean, Kira's not going to be able to sit there and clear it out.
I'm also looking at these builds because we talked a lot about what direction Kira and Lodik will take. Right now, we've seen the Iceborne Gauntlet, as well as a bit of a trade in the middle lane.
Abyssal Mask on the way, I believe.
But we also see the Mana Mune completed, along with, yes, the Abyssal Mask. So definitely a lot of scaling on the side of Gambit, and it'll really take them a while before they feel confident enough to try and look for fights.
And Kira's just got a bit of everything. I mean, we say he's got an Abyssal Mask, but he's got the makings of that. He's got the makings of the Seraphs. He's just kind of gone back and just picked up whatever he could afford. Thrift shot Kira enters Summoner's Rift.
That should explain the situation that he's kind of found himself in here. Again, Flash will full control on this bot side. They did get a Cloud Drake a minute or so ago. They're continuing to snowball that. They'll bust open that artificial lead and retake that solid gold.
For every dragon, your bottom lane has been broken 2 games in a row. There's really nothing you've been able to generate on this side of the map. Edward goes for a calculated face check. So you have to think, is this working out, or is there a way we can generate some form of advantage down here?
By breaking out somewhat, Diamond on the flank. Maple going to pull Edward in. Kira walks in. Needs a little bit more here. Stejos lining up the flank with the Ornn ult, but not pulling the trigger.
I think they were a little worried because Lodik wasn't in the vicinity, and trying to force an engagement to Alistar Varus at this point of the game is always a little risky, especially when you're sitting on the double tier build where you can't guarantee that you would have the damage to win out on that fight. You can see that when Kira was chipping down at Maple, he needed 2 rotations, and only then was he able to take about just below half of his HP. So Kira doesn't have the most damage on Kassadin.
And Maple was just still sitting on that ult. The one thing that hasn't changed about Swain is how deceptively tanky he is once he goes into that demonic ascension. Still has himself a stopwatch. There was really no way they were blowing him up before that happened.
Yep.
And I think that Gambit have now realized that they need to approach this game carefully. They should ultimately win out the 1-3-1, because no one really goes with Kassadin in the late game in that regard. So just slow the tempo of the game down and ensure that you're setting up the map.
Well, it could be tough again. Flash Wolves have just shown such good control. With another Inferno on the way in a number of minutes, Flash Wolves will continue to play this very calculated style that maybe didn't expect, given how aggressive they had been regionally. Still though, Flash Wolves have the big turret to break here in mid-outer, but again, they're just slowly but surely happy to accrue gold.
And my problem with this series so far from Gambit is they're not really challenging Flash Wolves to do anything that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
This game is being played exactly how Flash Wolves played domestic games. They're getting towards the 2-3 item point, and then if you just allow SwordArt and Hanabi to be able to start up these teamfights, which will nearly be impossible to stop if there's a flash on the Alistar, how do you actually disrupt this team?
Exactly that. Flash Wolves, they're playing a style that comforts them right now. We're not seeing the Gambit that we saw from Plains. But credit to Flash Wolves, they've maintained good objective control. Right now, they still need to secure themselves the top tower, and we'll start to see that vision shift towards the top side of the map. You can already see 4 members hanging around the river, putting control wards in. And once they get this tower, they can start to extend the already fairly substantial goal lead they have 19 minutes in.
Hanabi getting the plan going in bot side as well, so it looks like 3 towers potentially on the way. Betty going to stay for a little while longer, but Lodik hits him with a Q. So they're going to block the rest of them. Edward has the ult, but does not let it rip.
All right, Lodik actually starting to do some damage with that transform. Moojin did the right thing. He was shadowing his Joy lane in the long lane. Shout out to Raz. I know he's a big fan when Jungle does that, but even he was like, guys, just go back shop. That's not worth the fight. And we've seen this a couple of times, and I want to get your thoughts on it, Vedi, because generally when we saw Varus picked up, his second item was not Infinity Edge.
Yes.
This is another Varus that has picked up a BF sword second. Historically, we've seen either Hurricane, I know you're a fan of, and I like Rapid Fire Cannon. I can't think of a reason for it.
You know, funnily enough, when we were playing with Deficio the other day, he also went for the Infinity Edge second. And it's one of those things where I think that if you can get that base AD, it automatically enhances the value of the Rage Blade, because after the changes, it now scales better once you get those flat values. And I think that by just securing the BF sword and then going into your Zeal item, it just gives you a slightly stronger mid-game spike.
And not only that, he stopped at just the BF. So now he's going to go towards a Kershaw side, potentially pick up that attack speed item.
Exactly.
So getting the best of the both worlds and just smoothing out some of the curves. Kira, that's a headbutt in a wall. That's not very graceful. We'll forget about that one.
Well, they want to try and put some pressure down onto this bot tower, kind of trading sides of the map right now. But you got to remember, Flash Wolves are on the side of the Baron, and while they don't have the fastest Baron taking team,
Rage Blade 80 carry is quite quick.
it's always scary for sure. But Diamond secures that one. But it's also one of those things where if Gambit try to force a play on the top side, you have the Gangplank ultimate as well as the TP available. So he's not afraid of getting involved in the fight should Gambit try to force it.
Map play's been good so far for the Flash Wolves as Betty in the side lane will take out the top outer. Infernal up in 40 seconds, and Baron, of course, available for the teams to consider. So Flash Wolves again just continuing to have complete control of the map. And I think, Spawn, I see some frustration because Gambit is just giving it to them.
It's not only that, it's just how frustrating would it be to play against SwordArt? You walk into the jungle, there's just a cow randomly sitting in your path. You don't know if he's brought his petrol with him. You have to walk the long way around everywhere. And SwordArt just earning that veteran status, that craftiness that he brings to this Flash Wolf lineup. It looks like it's really frustrating Lodik and Edward out of their own areas and securing additional farm for Betty.
And during their finals, SwordArt was such a big playmaker. He went Morgana, Alistar, Morgana, and he was so pivotal in turning fights in the team save. We saw it in game 1, his flank on the Rakan, getting into the backline and getting a 4-man ulti into knock-up combo, winning Flash Wolves the fight. And when you give him this big comfort pick in the form of an Alistar, you can't help but be afraid with the team fights that are yet to come.
And they need to be patient here, Pastry. It looks like they want to fight, but they want their Kassadin to be able to join first. That's why they're getting a little bit out of position. However, Stejos now has a huge flank.
Yeah, Betty's almost in. Here comes the Ornn, finds Brittle on 3, gets a 3-man knock after it all. Betty actually gets almost fully chunked by the Ezreal ult, and they're going to follow it in. Swain does pop the stopwatch, and now the GPO is going to try and let them move away. Edward taking up the front side, but they can't really run through that choke safely.
But that'll do. That'll get them the fire. Drake does not look like there's a way for Flash Wolves to get back into this one. And the Ornn Horn is just so valuable in these parts of the map.
And it's the fact that Flash Wolves tried to go in with an engage with Betty's ultimate, they missed it. And with that gone, and SwordArt running the boots of mobility and not getting that ideal flank, Gambit were more than ready to go for the re-engage. They had the much better setup, and now finally they secure themselves their first Drake of the series.
And Fire Drakes are going to be pretty important for a Kassadin Ezreal comp as they continue to scale up.
He's completed items now, Spawn.
He's got a couple of them, and he is continuing to, you know, get towards the 3-4 item stage. I think it's actually going to be 4 this time. I love to say Kassadin 3 item. However, we haven't seen a second tier picked up yet for the Ezreal.
Looks like that's not the direction he's going. It feels like Blade of the Ruin King is the difference. Oh, interestingly enough, Kira's actually decided to max his W and E before his Q, which is quite an interesting development. Typically, I see the Q max for the lane power, but I guess considering how far behind he fell, and he doesn't think he's going to get that many strong trades against the Swain, he instead prefers the wave clear value of the E.
Historically, you kind of valued how tough a lane is based on how many points you needed to put in your Q. There were some lanes that you would just put 1 point in, like a Twisted Fate lane, and be absolutely fine. Wave clear becomes incredibly important. So obviously Kira just thinks that the damage that's going to come out of Maple fairly predictable and doesn't value that.
It's fair.
Well, map's still looking a bit constricted for Gambit, and again, Baron is getting more valuable as the minutes tick on Stejos right now down the bot side of the map as both top lanes with their TPs are trying to pressure on their respective turrets.
Stejos just doesn't take damage.
No, he's having a good old time. Like I said, shield plus damage is pretty good ability for trading, and Stejos going to try and make it a solo kill. Kira going to come down as well. It's a 2v2, making a 3v2. SwordArt with a clutch headbutt pole as Hanabi flashes out of the way. Kira, he smells bother. He knows now that he has to run away. Kira around the slow roof walks back towards the safety of his teammates.
And that is so much expended for a random fight that happened between two top laners. Flashes burnt from both of them. Ultimate's gone. But you can just see Stejos, until any further damage items come out of Hanabi, is more than willing to fight the Gangplank.
That was pretty hilarious. Just both top laners going at it. Both had to burn their flashes. Both mid laners TPing in to try and save the day. Will not secure in any major objectives game. The Flash Wolves, they're getting a bit of control now around the Baron. SwordArt is in a dire situation.
I think a Rift Walk back in, and now SwordArt pop the ulti, and is looking a little low. Nothing left to really save himself. Ending with the ulti, and there's Diamond! Gets the assassination with collateral damage. Now Moojin getting aggressed on his Stejos back in the front line. Gets a knock-up. We're going to try and take down the jungler. That could be Baron, but Maple, he's proccing the ulti and charging up the Nova. Lodik cutting back around as Stejos does fall. Vision of Empire also a good tool. Flash Wolves barely escaping with a trade.
Yes, the front line ended up dropping for Flash Wolves, but their damage dealers were still primed and ready to go. Stejos drops. Kira doesn't have the Zhonya's yet. He'd already used the shield, and Gambit just overcommitted to what was already a good-looking fight.
And Maple was clutch. He just went into Demonic Ascension again. We're going to see it. This starts with SwordArt getting caught out. It looks fantastic. Lodik just looking for poke over the wall, and you can see he's doing damage. I thought with the ulti from Edward that this team fight was done and dusted because they are standing in the middle of the Braum ultimate so slow. Moojin also falls down, but forward steps Maple. He's creating such a huge zone for the team, and the damage that is coming out of him is sick.
Yeah, I mean, you also have the Gangplank there just wailing on them from the backline, Betty as well, and just the focus from Gambit was just on killing Moojin rather than on trying to deal with the
It was actually the Gangplank that did it. So what I wanted to point out was that Gangplank, after that skirmish, like, you know, where he was whacking him, went back and bought an immediate Last Whisper. Yeah. He was like, I'm sick of this crap. I don't want to hit this guy anymore. He's just too damn tanky. So he just went back and bought the Last Whisper, which we don't normally see because Gangplank's barrels do shred through armor. However, so much of the trades are now based around auto attacks in this split push. I wonder if this is more of an old school Gangplank build. It's not. I was going to say, does he go for something like a Phantom Dancer?
Is he now going for a Yomu's Blade as well?
I think so.
Looks like it. Trying to get a bit of the Lethality in there. I feel like the Lethality will lose its value later into the game.
Yeah, I feel like he definitely either should have gone towards crit, which we see, you know, Infinity Edge into Essence Reaver, or something like the Phantom Dancer Infinity Edge, because it does seem that Stejos is willing to sit there and punch him a little bit.
Personally, I'm rooting for Duskblade, but pretty unlikely there for Hanabi. There in the top lane again. Gambit need to reset this map and kind of get things moving, but still with the Gangplank growing in strength, and Kira now down here. Different side of the split push perhaps as Gambit do look to set up this map and try and claim the Baron. They do love to play around it.
And I want to take this opportunity to just run through some of the items that have also been picked up on both sides, because like Zhonya is now finished for Maple. He was already hard to kill. Now he becomes even harder. You can still lifesteal while you're in that stasis form. And look, Betty now 2 items into his 3rd item, Infinity Edge. And once he hits that, this Varus becomes terrifying. So I feel like you look at this teamfight squad for Flash Wolves, and given how Gambit as a team love to fight, I feel like this time round, they are not the ones with the stronger 5v5.
Ooh. Edward just gets a shield up in time, but he's in trouble.
There's just so much CC. He's dead already before he can hit the ground. A knock-up is going to find two after the Ornn, but SwordArt just walks away.
Yeah, Lodik is doing a fair amount of damage, but his front line is continually falling down.
Kira going back in again. He's trying to charge up the Riftwalk stacks. They've got Maple's ulti. Now they can maybe kite it out and try and find another kill after it wears off.
I feel like Kira's really struggling to have an impact in these fights. Good knockup from Stejos.
It actually finds the 80 carry. Betty low. Now they're going to go with it. Maple. Burns is on his SwordArt taking it up, but Kira already dead. There's just too much. The Flash too far ahead. We're going to score a triple. Looking now for the Quadra as Diamond. Could be the next one to go. A flash Q there from Maple. The ace is completed by Hanabi.
Betty aggressively flashing forward over the wall, just looking for kills, and Flash Wolves clean house on the back end of their two carries. 2-0-6, 4-0 and 5, having huge games.
4-0. 4 right now are dead for Gambit, and the Baron is in the eyes of the Flash Wolves. A convincing team fight that's going to solidify a very strong lead in this game.
And this is a guy that we wanted to track. We said, is Betty going to be the liability that he has been in previous events? Is he going to be able to rise to the occasion? Lodik has looked good in these games, but has continually been outshone by his Flash Wolves counterpart.
Flash Wolves looking so good in Game 2. It feels like that they changed up their draft. They decided to put Maple back on more of a carry champion, and they just feel to have so much more control over the map this time around.
Well, Flash Wolves again just demonstrated so much control. We'll take another look at the Asa replay at that team fight, because Flash Wolves made it look awfully one-sided.
So we can see initially the Braum is already dead. He got chunked down. And you have Kira just sitting off on the flank. And Stejos sees an opportunity. He wants to knock up Betty. He thinks this is our time to go. But with no ulti and with the amount of damage that Flash Wolves have, you can just see how much quicker Kira dies relative to the Zhonya's empowered Maple, who's able to turn this fight around.
Absolutely. You see in the end, Betty kiting out, hitting priority targets. In Kira, flashes over the wall, picks up Lodik with a huge crit. And the fact that Edward was not there meant that the Gangplank barrels no longer were being blocked, and they were blowing people up.
Well, the gold is starting to get out of control. The Flash was 7,000 gold ahead, and Gambit, we said it, they are a Baron-centric team, but that cannot be your whole game plan. Apart from a straight Rift Herald here and there, they've been practically shut out of Dragons, and Flash Wolves have just been better on the map so far. Gambit needs something else, not just in this game, but in the series as well.
And for the Flash Wolves, this is such a big confidence game, because you got to remember, Moojin and Hanabi, the new faces on this roster. Hanabi just a rookie, and for Moojin, yes, he played in the Challenger Series in Europe before, but still a fairly experienced player. They're now taking it to Gambit, and they have their eyes on the inhibitor.
Siege busting GP ult's going to give that inhibitor turret over, now exposed on the bot side, but I think Flash Wolves looking frisky, might even fancy an engage.
Why not? At this stage of the game, Kira still knows on his hourglass, still no level 16. He is just trying to secure farm for himself, and the base is falling around the pressure. Flash Wolves will decide that that is enough and go back and get a shot, but until Kira has a couple more items, this game is still incredibly hard to fight.
Clouddrake as well, they can pick up for a bit of extra credit as TP in from Maple just to get the wave back in their favor. Flash Wolves again approaching that 10,000 gold lead right now, sitting at 9k. Gonna make it 3 Drakes, 2 Clouds, and an Infernal. And the snowball just keeps rolling here, Spawn.
And I just feel like they're so at home. This is the style of League of Legends we've seen Flash Wolves play. You know, slow start, get our items. When we have items, group up, look for our team fights, give initiation tools to our jungler, to our support player, and they haven't been forced off any of those picks. The game plan has not changed whatsoever. And Gambit going into game 3, because that looks like where this is heading, need to find something.
Well, Hanabi, level 18 now on a Gangplank.
SwordArt's behind him.
Yep, SwordArt, unsurprisingly, is there to help his team.
How many blinks does Kira need to survive? The answer is it doesn't matter. Betty just takes him down. A 3-man run from Flash Wolves. They push down the top lane.
SwordArt's one of those players that you don't know whether he's a genius or a lunatic until you actually see how the play is like finished, because he just ran through the jungle. Obviously, a small amount of vision, but there could have been anyone waiting there, and just absolutely goes for the huge flank one more time.
Now, Flash Wolves grouping up as a 5-man unit. They have game 2 set in their eyes. There are very few obstacles that stand in their way, and Gambit, they might go for a last-ditch effort, but their goals right now are just on the wave clear.
All over but for the crying, I think, at this point. The Flash was built another insurmountable lead. And we're going to try and play it back, but Stejos gets melted. Moojin able to claim credit for the kill. Hanabi tanking up the tower for a little while longer. They're trying to get through the backdoor armor. They will take it down. They'll expose yet another inhib. And Gambit now playing 4v5 defense.
Flash walls with such a great dive, but now the TP flank.
Here's the play they need. They know they need to make Kira the only level 15 and try and make something happen. He wants Mabel, but he can't grab it. Gets destroyed by Hanabi. And now the chase is back on. Edward gets clipped for the Vision of Empire slow. Lodik in there as Betty dominating, takes down the Braum. In him, likely ignored. They're going to go straight for the kill here.
It does not matter. The Nexus turrets are already under fire, and the Flash Wolves looking to close out game 2.
Again, they need to pick it up before. They want to represent better on an international stage, and they are one game away from reaching that goal. After they dive, the odd Nexus bound also.
Flash Wolves with a clean, calculated game. We saw so much roaming from SwordArt. We saw Betty playing phenomenally in teamfights. We saw the early camping of the middle lane. You know, coming into this series, there were 2 big things that we knew about the Flash Wolves. Number 1, jungler likes to hang around with his mid laner.
Yep.
And number 2, this bot lane likes to be aggressive and they like to make plays. And Gambit have given them all of those options twice now. And so far, it's been working for the Flash Wolves.
And the big thing for me was we thought that the responses out of Gambit would be there. Diamond, once again, looked to be in form coming into the playing stage. Kira looked to have added another string to his bow. These 2 players that historically had underperformed on the international stage were starting to ramp up, but unfortunately, against a classy opponent, it seems it's just more of the same.
It's just like Gambit are not playing the way they did in play-ins, right? We're not seeing the creativity. We're not seeing the early playmaking. I'm a little disappointed because I expected a little bit more from this Gambit squad, but for the Flash Wolves, things are looking up and up. They only seem to be getting better and better from game to game.
And I think that that's where you have to focus in on, because it takes 2 to tango, and I feel like the Flash Wolves right now are just starving Gambit out of any aggression. They're slowing the tempo of the game. They are waiting for their plays only and executing on them well. I think we saw 1 mistake, which was the Dragon team fight in the choke, but apart from that, nearly flawless League of Legends coming across, and if you can't push teams, then you cannot create those advantages for yourself.
With that, it is now do or die for Gambit when they step on stage.